What's going on, you guys? It's Royce Jacob. Welcome back to Waves Weekly. It's a video series I post every weekend where we go over recent news and current events that occurred over the past week that I believe relate to the markets. And we'll also go over some of the stocks we've been covering on the channel lately. We'll look at the charts. I'm not going to name them all out. They're probably in the title. So, yeah, we'll just take a look at those guys. I'll let you guys know what I'm seeing on those charts, what I'm expecting next week, and, yeah, just general market talk overall and some content of the week, as usual. All right, so as always, we'll go over everything first, everything we're going to be talking about, and then we'll dive into each one individually, all right? Before we do that, as always, if you guys do go on to gain any value from this content, I would really appreciate it if you gave the video a like and subscribed if you're not already. And if you are, thank you very much. All right, so that said, again, we'll start with some charts. We'll look at Moderna, start out with good old Moderna, and kind of just climb down the line here. So Moderna, we'll look at Inovio, we'll look at Riot, Bitcoin, we'll look at a few other stocks that we've been watching on the channel lately. We'll touch on cannabis, we'll touch on Tilray, Kronos. Okay, so we'll look at that. As we look at Moderna, I actually want to show you a couple articles in regards to Moderna that came out over this past week that I think are important. Again, I'm sure a lot of you are staying tuned. I'm sure a lot of you guys are invested, so you are up to date with a lot of these. But we'll just look over them together and just talk about it, and I'll let you guys know what I think about this. Okay. So we'll look at those news articles. We'll cover this one Inovio article that was released this week as well. This is promising news. Inovio, again, as you guys know, if you've been staying tuned to these recent videos I've been posting about these vaccine stocks, then you would know that I think Inovio is looking a little stronger as of right now, at least. And things change so fast in this sector. It's a very active, very exciting sector. So we'll talk about that. I'll let you guys know what I'm thinking about those two stocks and some of the other players in the sector as well. We'll go on to talk a little Bitcoin. I know a lot of you aren't super interested in Bitcoin, but I want to show you guys a little part of this. All right, I'm not going to be preaching it. It's called Bitcoin will create a new economic elite in 2020. Trust me, that is a very headliney title. Obviously, you want people to click on the article, but this is a very rational argument for why Bitcoin serves a great what purpose Bitcoin serves as an asset in this current economic environment. Okay, so we'll briefly look over that, and then we will look at good old Mr. Joe Rogan. All right, so Spotify. If you guys don't know, if you guys haven't heard, Spotify paid Joe Rogan allegedly over $100 million deal, maybe a lot more, to host his podcast exclusively on Spotify. We'll talk about that, what I think just that means for the whole almost audio digital space as a whole, and what I think it'll do to the stock. Okay, so I've been watching Spotify for a long time, very confident in them. This is a huge move on their end. And again, I don't want to talk about Spotify specifically, but kind of just what I think about this trend overall and the audio trend and where we're seeing things going. Okay, so that said, let's get into good old Moderna. All right, so Moderna had a tough week, as some of you guys know. Started the week, probably couldn't have had a stronger start to the week. Man, it's crazy. This has been a long week. Okay, so super strong start to the week. Insane start, up like 30% on Monday. Immediately followed by a lot of criticism and a lot of uncertainty, which caused it to climb back down to pretty much exactly where it was last week. All right, so from a technical perspective, stochastic RSI is on its way up. That is promising. It usually doesn't just decide to cut down right here, like while it's reaching the top. So I'm assuming, and RSI, so traditional actual RSI, is very low. Let me move my fat head real quick so you guys can see. So regular RSI is at about 47. Okay, so it's pretty neutral, but definitely lower than it has been. And yeah, again, very low for Moderna right now. So I'm expecting a move up. Granted, this is a very fundamentally based sector now. I don't want to put too much weight on technicals, although, again, as more traders enter the space, you are going to have to take technicals more and more into consideration over time as those traders and people who are playing the stock do enter the space. So keep that in mind. But one more thing I want to show you guys is a head and shoulders pattern could potentially be forming here. So if we go flat for another couple days, be careful for this head. So a head and shoulders, left shoulder, head. If it creates this right shoulder, it is likely to come back down to at least about $55, maybe even $50, like $48 to $50. Okay, so again, don't want to put too much weight on the technicals, but if I am looking at this technically, that is what I'm seeing. But let's focus on these fundamentals. Okay, So there's one good, one bad. There's actually a lot of bad around Moderna right now, but we'll go over the good first, all right? So Moderna climbs 5%. This was on Friday, as Fauci calls it early COVID-19 vaccine data quite promising. Moderna. Okay, so highlights. Dr. Anthony Fauci made a series of positive comments about Moderna's early COVID-19 vaccine data on Thursday night and Friday morning, sending shares higher by more than 5%. Fauci called Moderna's vaccine data quite promising and better than we thought in an interview with NPR on Friday morning. Fauci also said in a CNN interview on Thursday that he is cautiously optimistic about the Moderna vaccine. The comments come after Moderna released encouraging data from its phase 1 COVID-19 vaccine trial on Monday, which sent shares soaring. Okay, so yeah, as you guys know, we did cover that in a video earlier this week. Moderna's great news. It sent the stock on fire. But again, it was followed by a lot of criticism. So as you guys have heard, they released a secondary offering there, issuing a whole bunch of new shares at about $76 per share when they announced that when the stock was in the mid 80s or something. So obviously it will bounce down to the region that they made the announcement that they would release the shares on. It is currently it's currently at $69. So again, going into next week, just a rational price target, I would not be surprised at all to see Moderna hit that $75, $76 region, just because that is the price that these new shares are being issued at. Now that the hype's over, a lot of the weak hands have sold off. Rational hands will come in because again, these new shares are being priced at $76. It just makes intuitive sense to me that we will see these shares climb back up to $76. But I think it could very well float around that region. Okay, so again, they issued that secondary offering. There's a lot of skeptics claiming that this vaccine data and information that they're releasing isn't quite the puzzle pieces aren't quite fitting together. But that is just due to the fact that they're not releasing all the information they have. I think that's the case. I'm not sure. I don't know if they have information that they are withholding. Obviously, no one knows that if they're withholding the information. But I don't think there's any malpractice. Again, I don't think Moderna is maliciously doing any of this. But there is a lot of red flags, and this is one of them. So Moderna unveiled encouraging coronavirus vaccine results. Then top execs dumped nearly $30 million of stock. Okay, so this kind of falls in line with the secondary release. And I did talk about this from a business perspective. Moderna has an obligation to its shareholders as a public company to return profits. Okay, they are a public company that they are not only in the business of a vaccine, but in the business of paying their shareholders because they took a risk on them. Okay, and that is capitalism. All right, that's what the game we're all playing. If you make a risky investment early on and the stock does well, you deserve to reap the benefits of those rewards. Okay, so I don't blame the executives from a business standpoint. It is poor business. Not poor business. It is poor publicity. This is very bad optics. Moderna has put themselves in a place of very bad optics to the general public by doing these things. But again, I'm still holding my Moderna stock. We'll kind of wrap it up here. I will keep you guys updated over time as the story continues. It's a very exciting just kind of track that we're on with this vaccine sector as a whole. So I'll keep you updated on this, but I'm holding the majority of my Moderna position still. If it does hit $76, 75, 76, I will probably pull about half of my call options off the table. Okay, I'll keep the stock that I have, but I'll probably reduce my call options fairly significantly, just because again, until they release more very sound news or really back up that trial, those trial results that they were claiming earlier this week, then we could see the stocks pop up a lot from that. But unless that happens, I think the stock will float around $75 for a while. Okay, so I want to take a little bit of that risk off the table. But again, I'll keep you guys posted. All right, so Moderna down, Inovio. Let's take a look at Inovio's chart first. All right, so INO, again, it's following this channel. This is a huge channel. Like, this range is ridiculous from a technical perspective. So it's a very basic channel. But again, stochastic RSI is just about to make a move up. That's super bullish. RSI is about the same. I'm not gonna move my head again, but you guys can tell that's around 50. That's around the exact same spot as Moderna. That's like 50 RSI. So it is looking promising. Again, there's such just obviously solid upward momentum in Inovio. I still expect it to hit $20 over the coming weeks. Definitely by the end of June. I'm going to call that. I'm expecting that. I will not guarantee that this will happen. This could very well not happen. The stock could crash. But I personally think that the stock will hit $20 by mid-June-ish, okay? So, again, that is very dependent on the news unless they completely flop. That applies for all these vaccine companies. Unless they completely flop and say that, which I don't think, I cannot envision happening, these companies just completely bailing out of the race. Unless that happens, I don't think these stocks will crash for sure. And I think they will only continue to steadily climb, especially as more news comes out. That's the pattern we've been seeing, right? Super optimistic. You question the validity of it. People get scared. We can't sell. Oh, super optimistic, great news. And then the same thing happens and it's over. It's a very predictable cycle, you guys, once you just look at it that way. Same applies for Moderna. Novavax too, probably. I'm not touching Novavax. You know what? We'll take a look at it quick. Novavax, if it spends a bunch of time around $40, I'm definitely shorting Novavax because that is a huge head and shoulders pattern forming. But it could also, this is kind of a weird bull flag forming. So it could also bounce off this resistance or this support level, I should say, at like $44, $45, which it's floating around now and keep going up. But Novavax seems fishy to me. Again, I didn't get on it early. It could just be a bias that I have towards it. These are the RSI and stochastic RSI actually looks good on Novavax too, okay? And volume is consistently getting a little better on Novavax, which I don't know. We'll see how next week plays out. That applies for all of these that we're about to look at. These sectors are so wild that we're going to have to see how this next week plays out. And remember, you guys, Monday is Memorial Day, so the markets are going to be closed. So there's going to be a lot. It's a long weekend for a lot of news to be released. I did say that in, I think, a recent video, but this vaccine sector specifically is very good at releasing news on weekends, okay? Good news on weekends, leading the stocks to soar higher on market open, on the week's market open, okay? So give it a 3-day weekend. That's plenty of time in today's time scale for these companies to release good news. So we'll see if that happens. Let's hope so. But again, this is a wild sector. So be careful, but I will just keep you guys posted with what I'm thinking, as always. All right, so those down. Actually, you know what? We're going to cover this Inovio report. I fully forgot about this. Okay, so Inovio reports promising data from its COVID-19 vaccine studies. Okay, so this happened on like Thursday. Wednesday or Thursday, they released this data. So very, what is that? Very promising for Inovio. I'll just read some of this here. Inovio Pharmaceuticals has reported promising data from the preclinical studies of the COVID-19 vaccine candidate INO-480 in mice and guinea pigs. So that pretty much sums it up. These mice and guinea pigs, you guys can go on to read this. Same as these, CNN Business. This is a Market Insider article. This one's pretty good. But this is Pharmaceutical Technology titled Inovio reports promising data from its COVID-19 vaccine studies. You guys can find it. But yeah, pretty much the candidate allegedly generated robust neutralizing antibodies and T-cell responses against SARS-CoV-2, the novel coronavirus that caused COVID-19. Okay, so it's all about those antibodies, right? So both of these, similar to the studies that Moderna did, Moderna showed it in humans, which is way more validating. But again, that's in question right now. Inovio, in mice and guinea pigs, they're mammals as well, so that's just kind of this pharmaceutical practice 101. They tested on there's animal studies prior to human clinical trials, so it's promising. It is promising that these small mammals developed neutralizing antibodies and T-cell responses against this virus. So again, Inovio, way smaller market cap. It's about 1/10 the size of Moderna right now. So it can see more rapid movement, similar to Novavax and a lot of these other companies. Moderna is definitely the kingpin. The growth will be slower, likely. 20 billion is still a pretty small market cap, to be completely honest. But Inovio guys are like these guys are sitting at about 2 billion. Okay, so you can see a lot more rapid movements in these smaller market cap companies. All right. I actually want to look at Riot too, and this kind of plays into what we're going to look at in Bitcoin. Okay, so Riot, VidEase Riot. There you are, up by the cryptos. Okay, so Riot looking strong. I'm worried about this head and shoulders right here. Volume is definitely decreasing on Riot, but like over time, it's increasing a lot. Okay, so there's actually a shitload of volume on Riot compared to recent times. Okay, so that's good. Any volume is good volume, honestly, when you're playing with a volatile stock and you're in it for the long run, because that's just more eyes on the stock. That's more capital flowing in and flowing out. More traders being introduced to it. More people are going to be trading this. Overall, it's more capital and more just more eyes on the stock, which is good, especially for a stock with a market cap as low as Riot at like 40 or 50 million dollars. That's a tiny stock. Okay, so we see here again RSI on a lot of these. There's been a big pullback in a lot of the market, so RSI is going to be pretty low. It's bouncing around 50. Stochastic is showing that Riot might come a little bit lower before peeling back around. Okay, before making that turnaround. But again, it's bouncing off of these EMAs. So if you guys don't know, this purple is a 47 EMA, and the green is a 21 EMA. So those are it's traditionally 20 and 50, but I do them just a little off just because I feel it gives me a very slight edge. I could be completely wrong, but that's just how I choose to do it. It's worked out well for me. Okay, so it's been bouncing off of this 47 EMA very well. That's always nice. Just TA 101, always add like a 20, 50, 100, 200 MA to your charts and use those as just pretty base level areas to use as support or resistance whenever you're looking at a chart, okay? So Riot looks good. Again, I hope it doesn't form this head and shoulders pattern that it looks like it's kind of wanting to. But again, it could just be bouncing off this previous high right here. So let's hope that happens. Again, it is not directly correlated, but it is in a sense correlated to Bitcoin because it is a Bitcoin mining company. So we'll look at Bitcoin here. Bitcoin actually fell out of this channel I drew, but that's a pretty irrelevant channel. Bitcoin, if you look at it, is looking super strong. Let's actually go to just like the yearly on Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is rallying super hard. I mean, the charts look great for Bitcoin. The halving just happened. Things are getting more scarce in the Bitcoin world, and we're not going to look at the charts of Bitcoin too much. We'll actually look at this. So it is called Bitcoin Will Create a New Economic Elite in 2020. Again, super extravagant, over-exaggerated title in my opinion. These reporters got to get clicks, okay? But this is actually a really well-written article. I'm just going to read you guys the beginning. But if you are interested at all in Bitcoin, I recommend you guys checking this out. It is on Cointelegraph. The title is right there. All right, so as many economies slowly begin to open up again, their stability remains uncertain. 2020 will go down in the history books as the year the financial markets suffered their worst day since 1987, and oil's value went negative for the first time in history. Bitcoin continues to increase in popularity across the globe, particularly as emerging markets with populations counting billions begin to recognize its potential. The asset has proven extraordinary resilience in the worst economic crisis of our living time, even overtaking gold as the best performing asset of 2020. Okay, so yeah, Bitcoin, technically the best performing asset of 2020 on the year since the beginning of 2020, is up more than every other market. Okay, so up more than S&P, Dow, gold, everything. All right, so the COVID-19 pandemic has pulled the brakes on the world economy, with the United States Federal Reserve, the world's most powerful central bank, being left with no option but to print unlimited money from their magic money tree. The damage is estimated to cost at least $1 trillion. At least $1 trillion. That's on the low end. If its flow-on effect causing widespread unemployment, this crisis won't be over when the pandemic is. This is just important for overall market news, all right? So this crisis won't be over when the pandemic is, and it will reveal to the traditional financial system that there is a lot to learn. This year, Bitcoin will create a new economic class, and it's time for you all to pay attention or miss out. Okay, so if you guys watch some of my Bitcoin videos, but if you haven't, I'm very not anarchistic. I don't think Bitcoin's going to be the new money. I don't think Bitcoin's going to replace the US dollar. I actually think that this economic crisis is going to strengthen the US dollar and weaken all other global currencies. But that's another argument for Bitcoin in my books, okay? Bitcoin is global, all right? A lot of times on this channel, we talk about stocks. Stocks are great, but a lot of us living in the US, we have access to Robinhood. It's all right at our fingertips. It's easy for us. The whole world doesn't have access to stocks like us, to equities like us, okay? It's a lot harder for a lot of people to obtain these equities and assets like that, okay? But Bitcoin is global. Bitcoin has very little there's very little hoops you have to jump through, especially at a global level, to get on the Bitcoin bandwagon, okay? And again, as these countries have to keep up with the U.S. in printing money, because the U.S. is printing trillions, but these other countries around the world are in way worse shape, and they're printing equally as much, if not more money than the U.S. is, just to keep up, okay? And these are the countries that are going to see inflation, which is where their currency is extremely devalued, okay? And that's what highlights the need for an asset like Bitcoin. an absolutely scarce asset. There's only 21 billion that will ever exist in history. There's not enough Bitcoin for every millionaire in the world to own one. Okay, think about that. There's more millionaires in the world than there are single Bitcoins. Okay, that's huge. Bitcoin is scarce. It's a digital, it's a scarce asset. It retains value. It will never decrease. It will decrease in value. I shouldn't say that. It's so scarce that it is likely that over a year period, definitely over a 5 or 10 year period, the value of Bitcoin will be higher, 100% in my mind, unless the system completely fails. Again, this is my opinion, but my money's on the fact that Bitcoin will be extremely, way higher. Okay, watch some of my other Bitcoin videos. You know that I'm a Bitcoin bull. But again, not from an anarchistic level. It's just such a scarce asset. It's so obvious to me that Bitcoin is a great investment, especially while the world is printing so much fiat currency. Okay, so Bitcoin ran out of the way. We'll look at podcasting. I'm sure you guys have heard of this. The podcasting world is now Spotify versus everyone else. Okay, so in what's likely the biggest deal ever for a single podcast, Spotify announced this week that Joe Rogan's enormously successful show, JRE, will become Spotify exclusive. Okay, so this was huge news. I'm sure you guys saw this, got wind of this. But this is huge. And this is huge for Spotify. I think this is a genius move on Spotify's end to acquire Joe Rogan, who's arguably the most undervalued, now properly valued maybe, but Joe Rogan is the most powerful, might be the single most powerful media asset on this planet, okay? The Joe Rogan experience on YouTube and on podcasts, so his combined impressions have way more than Fox, CNN, CNBC combined. Okay, Joe Rogan is the most powerful media entity on this planet, in my opinion. Maybe factually too. So I think Spotify acquiring this is great. They will almost monopolize podcasts at this point because Joe Rogan's almost always number one on like Apple Podcasts and whatnot. So you can only listen to it on Spotify now. I think again it was estimated to be $100 million. It's probably, it's definitely in that like 8-figure mark. Okay, so this is huge for them. Spotify is moving in the right direction. This makes me very bullish on the stock. This is a Forbes article I brought up titled "Why We Think Spotify Should Be a $500 Stock." I'll just read this. In our opinion, Spotify could become the Google of audio, but Wall Street has been slow to see the disruption coming. Okay, so you know what? Let's actually look at Spotify stock down here. I have it on this watch list. Where is it? Spotify right here. So it had a little pullback. It obviously saw crazy momentum after releasing that Joe Rogan news. It's almost back to actually, what's all time? What the heck? I hate when it goes to monthly and all time. Okay, let's just go to daily and zoom way out. Okay, so Spotify stock IPO'd around here. Where they IPO at? Okay, so the IPO'd at about $150. They're currently sitting at $190. Again, they've bounced back really strong, and their market cap is $34 billion. Okay, so that is small in terms of when you can potentially compare them. That's the key words in this, is comparing them to Google. Okay, they could be the Google of audio. All right, so Google, everyone knows Google makes their money. Both Google and Facebook make all their money off of ad revenue. Okay, they sell ads, they target ads. All right, and if Spotify can capitalize on an ad platform in audio, which is a very growing industry, audio is probably the next frontier in my mind, because it's passive, right? While you're working, while you're doing something else, you can be listening to a podcast, listening to music. You can listen while you do anything else. All right, so Spotify is a very strong asset in that sense, especially if they can capitalize on this on ad revenue. They are a very small company. Again, Facebook is like a $400 million company. Google is almost $1 trillion company, right? So if Spotify can grow and really continue to dominate this podcast and music, just audio overall market, I think they have a lot of potential I could see them, to be honest, 10xing over the next 5 to 10 years, especially because everything is trending digital again. Follow the trends. That's the main reason I wanted to bring this up, okay? It's not just because I'm bullish on Spotify. I personally don't have a position in Spotify yet, but you guys just always be vigilant for trends like this, macro and small trends. Okay, so on the topic of Joe Rogan, we'll on the note of trends in Joe Rogan, we'll get to weed stocks, all right? So we'll look at Tilray, okay? I did release that little video talking about why I'm bullish on cannabis stocks. That was my last video, and I will release another video soon talking about my top 3 cannabis stock picks. In the very near future, that'll probably be my next video, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, let's just look at Tilray right here. We did look at this in that video, but again, these stocks having great rebounds off this low but again, it looks terrible when you compare. Look at that. That's how it looked. Okay, that is a drop in the bucket of how it bubbled up. Again, you guys, that's crazy. Like, look at these charts for yourself. Look at how this market reacted in 2018 when these stocks IPO'd. Got up to $300. Tilray was sitting at like a $40 billion valuation. Obviously, not worth that much. So this was obviously a bubble. Be careful with these stocks, guys. But again, a lot of them are releasing news that leads me to believe that these stocks have a very bright future ahead of them, at least in the short to mid term. I think obviously the long term, I think weed isn't going anywhere. I think weed is just going to become a better and better industry to invest in over time, just because, again, there's infrastructure being built. The regulatory issues that they've faced for a long time are getting easier and easier for them to navigate. So I think weed is a great investment right now. And again, Tilray, just looking at this, broke its previous high of where it bounced back, or it's about to. It's dancing right around there, but I think next week is going to be a good week for weed. Again, the RSI is skyrocketing on this, but volume is picking up extraordinarily, okay? And you can see it's higher than it's been for a long time. Even when the stock price was higher, the volume was almost non-existent around this area. But I think, again, as the fear subsides, in a lot of these investors who did invest in weed and lost money in the weed game because it was so bubbly, as they pour back in, as people do some digging in the financials and whatnot, people will flood back to weed over time. And again, these stocks are making great moves. So again, look at Cronos. Cronos having a great week as well. These stocks, I think, have a lot of upside ahead of them. I think this is the beginning of the uptrend. Cronos going into next week, again, the RSI on all of these is so high, but that's to be expected because they just shot straight up at the end of this past week. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a little pullback. Again, it's nice that Cronos, I wouldn't be surprised to see Cronos specifically bounce around this like 670 point. Oh, it's at 670 right now. Oh, well, we'll see where it goes next week then, huh? Okay. But yeah, you guys always be careful. If you are looking at charts, RSI and stochastic RSI are two of my most, again, I'm not huge on technicals. I do prioritize fundamentals over technicals always. So the fundamentals are leading me to believe that cannabis is going forward, but the technicals, if you are looking at technicals, look at the EMAs, so exponential moving averages, and then look at stochastic RSI and RSI, which is a relative strength index. Okay, so again, just a little TA 101 there. But yeah, I mean, I see big things for cannabis in the future. I think we will see another rally, at least to around their IPO prices. I will mention that in the video I'm posting, because I think the IPO prices of these stocks are going to be the price targets as well. So yeah, we'll call it there on weed. Yeah, I think that's actually everything we have, guys. All right, so let me know if I missed anything. I don't think I did. I think we went over the big ones, Moderna, Inovio, Riot, and then these wheat stocks again. I think these are a force to be reckoned with. I would encourage you guys to definitely look into them further if you guys aren't introduced to the space at all. Go in there, look at the charts, do some digging on companies that you think are solid. Again, I will be posting that video talking about my top 3 picks very soon. I might actually post that before this one. Well, we'll see though. We'll see when I happen to be able to record it. Okay, so I'll try to record that as soon as possible. It will be posted as soon as possible, so keep an eye out for that. As always, you guys check out the links down below in the description, the portfolio product and the options course. It's a great way to help me help you if you guys are interested in diving in a little deeper into this game. So check that out, and I appreciate it if you do. If not, no worries at all. Drop a comment down below, again, if you want to talk about anything we discussed today. There's a lot of exciting things happening, so I imagine you guys have some things to say. So definitely drop a comment below. And again, leave a like button, or hit that like button. Leave a like if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're not already. And as always, I really appreciate it if you are. Okay, so we'll call it there, guys. Always remember, take action, make waves in these markets. Until next time, peace.